Always true.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
In an unprecedented move against a member state, the European Parliament has triggered Article 7 of the EU's governing treaty, meant to protect its core principles: human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities. The EU accuses the Hungarian government, led by the Prime Minister Viktor Orban, of breaching those values by passing anti-refugee laws, manipulating the media, disregarding government corruption, and removing independent judges. Budapest denies the accusations and defends its policies, but with European Parliament elections scheduled to take place in May next year, could the divisions that have been exposed lead to political change across the EU? We find out as Peter Szijjártó, Hungarian Foreign Minister, talks to Al Jazeera. Peter Szijjártó, Foreign Minister of Hungary, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera again.
It's my honour.
Since we spoke to you last, your country is facing proceedings never before invoked in the European Union. It's called Article 7, and it's because a country is breaching the core values of the EU. That's what they've got to decide on.
Yeah, or at least someone has a suspect at least, right?
Are you still signed up to those core European values?
Of course we are, and we are not violating them. The report, which was pushed through the European Parliament,
voted.
I read it. Unlike I think so many people who are speaking about it, but I read it from the very beginning to the very end, and it has a list of 69 points, 69 accusations against Hungary, out of which 13 points have been totally agreed upon by the government and the European Commission. Agreed upon. About 19 points, there are negotiations going on between the Commission and the Hungarian government, as it is normally the procedure in the European Union. And there are 37 points which are qualified lies. I mean, I went through all of them because I represented the government twice on the committee meetings which prepared the plenary meeting.
But you had your chance to make your case.
Yeah,
in front of the European Parliament.
I made the comment,
and
but nobody cared.
448 members voted against you. Just 197 voted for you.
Yeah, and you know, here's the cheating, because you just read this. You don't read abstentions.
Yeah, 48.
Yeah, and this is the key issue here. Normally, according to European contracts, the way decisions are being made by the European Parliament is the following. You have the yes votes, and on the other side you have the no votes and the abstentions. And for some reason, this case, leaders of European Parliament made the decision to leave the votes of abstentions out of consideration. If you add the abstentions, this resolution is not passed.
But obviously the rules of the European Parliament are that you don't add the abstentions, otherwise...
No, you do. You do. That's actually why it was cheating, because you do add the abstentions. Just look at the treaty where it writes
so
very
all the
clearly.
other political parties in the European Parliament were guilty of cheating.
It was a cheating.
Perhaps we should widen this, because this is part of a big discussion, I think, going on in Europe and going on in the world about the way the world should be governed. And it's come up in the recent UN General Assembly in New York. Very different visions given, for example, by the French President, Emmanuel Macron, and the US President, Donald Trump. He's talking about a series of powerful sovereign nations and going against global governance, whereas the French President is talking about keeping up multilateralism. Which side are you on?
Well, actually, we always take the Hungarian side. So I don't like these simplifications, whether I'm pro-American or pro-French, because I'm pro-Hungarian. But what I can tell you is that there are many points in the foreign policy of Donald Trump which we respect a lot. First of all, we do respect that he respects sovereignty. He respects strong states. He respects countries sticking to their identity, their culture, their heritage. You know, when the French president speaks about multilateralism, and then I look at his European policies, I'm a little bit concerned, because the measures he would like to see in the European Union would be rather unfavorable for Hungary when it comes to tax harmonization and all this kind of stuff, you know, and migration. We are absolutely on two different sides with President Macron, and his vision about Europe when it comes to migration, when it comes to social issues, when it comes to taxation, when it comes to economic issues, is totally showing to another direction compared to our vision about the future of Europe.
Let's explore this a little further. I'm just going to read you a quote from President Macron's address to the General Assembly. "Nationalism always leads to defeat. If courage is lacking in the defence of fundamental principles, international order becomes fragile, and this can lead us, as we already seen twice, to global war." What do you make of that comment?
I don't want to comment the words of the French president because they speak for themselves. And
but it's about nationalism. Is nationalism a good or bad thing?
But what does nationalism mean in this regard? I mean, I don't know what he was speaking about because I don't know his thoughts. What I can tell you is that we are under accusations in Europe many times of being nationalistic. Now, the thing is the following. We are a country which never will give up the right to make the decision about the future of Hungary on our own. We will never give up the right to make a decision on our own with whom we would like to live together in our country. We will never give up the right to decide about whom we would like to enter, whom we would like to let enter the territory of our country and whom we don't. We will always be a nation of freedom fighters. We don't like colonialism. Sometimes when the French foreign minister or French president speaks about Hungary, they speak as if we were a colony of them. So I think mutual respect, it is what is lacking from the global set of foreign policies currently.
But you've agreed to a form of mutual government for some things. That is what the European Union is. Some areas are decided at a European level.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We are part of European Union, meaning that part of our sovereignty we practice together with the European Union. There's no problem with that. The problem is with intentions to change the treaties which direct the operation of the European Union. Change the treaties in not a democratic way. There are some intentions for that, and this is something that we reject. We think that European Union needs to undergo some reforms, because obviously if you look at the performance of the European Union, you see that the competitiveness is worsening, no question. And in order to become again competitive, in order to be able to be successful in this global race of economy and trade, we have to make some changes. This is what we understand. And there's a debate now within the EU, with a good reason, by the way, because there are at least 5 tremendous historic type of challenges ahead of us, like migration, like the threat of terror, Brexit, energy security, war in Ukraine. So it's obvious that we have debate about these issues, because when should we have debate about the future of Europe, if not now, when there are historic challenges? So I don't think that having a debate within the EU about the future would be bad news. Bad news is that the democratic right of taking part in discussions is kind of supposed to be taken away from some countries which do not represent the mainstream. That's a problem. That's very anti-democratic.
Let me take you back to April and the election. You had a very successful result, yes?
Record turnout, 70% of the people showed up, and we received 49.6% of the votes. So it means third continuous election, third continuous constitutional majority in the parliament.
So you can change the constitution again, change what you want if you want to.
If you want to.
Tell me, was it a free and fair election?
Of course.
There was an election mission from the OSCE that produced a pretty damning report. It said there was intimidating and xenophobic rhetoric, media bias, and opaque campaign financing.
But, I mean, just simply not true. Simply not true. There was free and fair elections. You know, third continuous time we won a constitutional majority. These allegations are just not being serious. Sorry to say that. If you had been to Hungary at that time, you would have been able to say that this is nonsense.
But this was a monitoring mission from a respected body, yes?
Yeah, but I say it's nonsense.
What about the claims that the public television clearly favoured your party and that there was a government information campaign that went out 2 weeks before the poll that was against migration and matched one of the main themes of your party's platform?
It's all over the world that governments run information campaigns about the most important issues.
Well, the most important issue for your party, which you were trying to get elected on.
This is the most important issue in Hungary currently. If it was not the most important issue, then we wouldn't have received 49.6% of the votes in the country. And I'm telling you what, migration was not the most important issue only in Hungary. If you look at the last 5 national elections in Europe, you know, there was Italy, Austria, Slovenia, Hungary, and then Sweden. In all countries, migration was the #1 topic during elections. With a good reason, by the way, because this is something that bothers the people in Europe. With a good reason, because hypocrisy and political correctness have been all around this debate. And with a good reason, because I think people really want honest and straightforward speeches in this regard. So, and if you see the results in Hungary, in Slovenia, in Austria, in Italy, in all 4 cases, those parties have gained the most votes, which have a credible program how to protect the security of the country, how to protect the security of the citizens of the given country.
Clearly, one issue is media freedom. It came up in that report that you already quoted. You said it. You read it from beginning to end. In terms of the media in Hungary, most of the media is friendly to your government. Is it not?
True. No, it's not true. Look at the internet. I mean, come on. I understand Hungarian language is pretty difficult, so foreigners can be misled very easily by saying such kind of lies. But if you can speak Hungarian, and if you look at the internet, I mean, you will hardly find government friendly web pages. The most viewed or most watched or most read internet web page is very heavily critical or hostile, whatever, to the government. When it comes to the televisions, the most viewed television is heavily hostile to
That's
the
RTL.
government. Yeah, heavily hostile. So, but what are we speaking about? You know, these are against perceptions that freedom of speech, freedom of gather or assembly is being violated. No, it's not. You know, not only the European Union, but the United Nations put together some reports saying that freedom of assembly is taken away from Hungarian people. I went to see the commissioner. I sat to the table with her and I said, look, I came here because there's a very serious issue. You wrote in your report that in Hungary, freedom of assembly is taken away from the people. Could you please tell me what case you are referring to? And she had no clue. She said that, you know, I just came 2 days before this report was issued, and I didn't. It was the staff to put together. But come on, you know, this is very irresponsible way of behavior.
But you said the same thing about the OSCE. Now you're saying about the European Commission. Is there some conspiracy against you?
I don't know whether it's conspiracy, but these are lies. I don't know whether they do it together or not. But you know, it's very serious, because you sit here. Many people watch this program. And thank you for invitation, because I can explain. And then such kind of things are said about Hungary, that there is no freedom of media. And then I ask, please tell me, what journalists, what media outlets have been under torture or had to suffer? Has anyone applied censorship?
It's about ownership, isn't it? And whether those owners are friends of the Prime Minister.
Well, we can go back to communism and say that private ownership is not allowed in media, but do we really want to do so?
Okay, let me raise another issue.
Just what happens if a private owner sells a newspaper, for example? Is that the fault of the government? Or I tell you what, there was a daily newspaper which was partly owned by the Socialist Party. No one had a problem with that. No one raised the issue that how it is possible that a leftist party partly owns a daily paper. You know, isn't it interesting that whenever left or liberal parties are involved there, no one raises this question? It's so hypocritical, it's so double standard, and so ridiculous, to be honest.
I'm going to raise another area, which is the judiciary, and this time I'm going to raise something that was a report from Hungary, from the National Judicial Council in May. It cast doubt on the autonomy of the Hungarian judiciary, a damning analysis about the way that the senior judges have been hired and the role of Tunda Hando, who is a long-time friend of your Prime Minister?
Yes. And
So
what's the problem?
Well, the problem
What's the
is
concrete problem I can
the
address?
problem is that judges aren't being fairly selected.
What do you mean under that?
Judges who are favourable to the government are being selected, was the suggestion in this report.
But who are they?
Judges who sit
I don't know.
on criminal cases.
I don't know any judges who have been selected because of their friendship or not friendship to the government. There are many rulings on the courts which we don't like, but as an individual citizen, I think I have the right to like or dislike court decisions. As a politician, I cannot comment because then I would harm or violate the independence of judiciary. But I don't know about any judges who would have gained positions just because being friendly to government.
You reject that allegation, even though it came from the main group of Hungarian judges.
There's a big debate about the reform of the judicial system within the judicial system. So this is not a debate between government and judges. This is a professional debate within the judicial system.
Getting back to the issue of migration that you've had so much criticism on. In fact, our first interview was in 2015 at the height of the migration crisis, and you had some very tough questions there then. Since then, you've basically given up letting people into Hungary, isn't that right?
We do not allow any illegal migrants to the territory of the country.
What about refugees?
We have sealed off the green border, so the only way you can enter the territory of the country is a legal way. So go there to the border crossing point, show your travel documentation, and you can come in.
What about if you're a refugee?
But how can you come? How can you be a refugee if you are surrounded by peaceful countries?
Well, sometimes countries volunteer to let refugees in.
What do you mean?
They take refugees as part of resettlement programs.
Yeah, but my question...
You're not taking anyone in. You're not letting anyone in.
No, we don't want to take part in that. I can tell you something. Those people who arrived to Hungary, those 400,000 about which we spoke in 2015 when it was in the height.
And they were coming through country to country, yes.
They came through at least 5 peaceful countries. Yeah. So my question is, whether anyone could show me, can't because I have looked at it, anyone could show me any point in international regulations which would say that you have a right to wake up in the morning, pick a country where you would like to live in, and in order to get there, violate series of borders. It's not a human right. The human right is that you are in trouble, you are forced to leave your home, you go to the first safe place where you're gonna be taken care of. But it's not written anywhere that you are allowed to violate border between 2 peaceful countries because you want to get through. No, those people who came to us came through Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, sometimes Bulgaria, Serbia, Croatia, 5, 6 safe countries. My question is, how can you be a refugee after you violate borders between 5 safe countries?
My question is about refugees who need to find somewhere to live, and the European Union has come up with ideas to spread them around Europe. Right now, as I understand it from the latest statistics I can find, you have 10 million people in your country and 3,555 refugees living in Hungary. You're not taking your fair share. There are people who are fleeing war, they're fleeing famine. Some of them, isn't it fair for you to take in some of them? Your share?
We are taking part in the burden sharing because we spent already more than €1 billion on protecting the external border of the European Union. This is number 1. Number 2, we have launched a program which is called Hungary Helps. We are spending millions of euros on helping the communities in the Middle East. Because when the bishops come to us, the Christian bishops come to us from the Middle East, they always ask us, please, do not help our people to leave the area because our communities will be eliminated. Please help us to be able to return, and please help us to be able to get stronger there.
You say the bishops. Are you only helping Christians?
Yeah, we have a special program to help Christians. And
why not Muslims too?
We are a Christian country. We feel responsible for the Christian people. And since there are no other targeted program for the Christians, we do it. So what we do is the following. We have rebuilt villages for the Christians where they used to be living for centuries, and they were forced to leave. Now we rebuilt villages where they can return. We are building schools there. We are covering expenditures of hospitals. We are building cultural institutions. We are giving 100 scholarships every year, fully financed by the Hungarian state, to be able to get more, to be able to be more competitive. How can you say that we don't take the fair share?
What about corruption? Transparency International puts you below Montenegro in its list of corruption. Montenegro can't get into the EU because it's too corrupt. What do you make of some allegations, for example, that Viktor Orban, your Prime Minister, has used public funds and channeled EU funds to Lake Balaton, to areas where he has close friends and relatives with properties?
That's just being ridiculous. Number one, it's ridiculous to accuse the Prime Minister with such kind of issues. Number two is being ridiculous.
Well, I mean, he's not beyond accusation, is he? Anyone could be guilty of something. It's a lie that Montenegro is not member of European Union because of corruption. This is not true. That's simply a lie, and it's simply a lie that the Prime Minister uses public funds for private reasons. It's not true. So I have to say I have to reject that, and it's really a scandal that such kind of things can be said. To be honest. And these are the sort of
without consequences. That's
these are the sort of allegations that are out there. Some of these things are in that report that went to the European Parliament. What happens next? Because clearly there's a procedure in Europe. What are you going to do next?
Well, you know, in this case, the General Affairs Council, which is the body of the ministers responsible for European integration of the member states, comes together and based on the will of the presidency, which is now Austria, they will have hearings, one or two. And
Austria, incidentally, is run by a conservative government that is in the same European People's Party as you, and they didn't back you in the vote.
One party of them is member of the European People's Party.
But they didn't back you. That's important, and it's the party of the Chancellor.
So?
Well, you must be disappointed.
You know, I understood that friendship and politics must not be confused anymore. But anyway, one or two hearings. And then afterwards, it will be put on the agenda of the Council itself, you know, the gathering of the heads of state and government of the European Union. And their unanimous decision must be made if any sanctions would be applied.
And now, you've got other people on your side.
Yeah, of course we do. The Polish and the Czech Polish government and Czech Prime Minister made it very clear that they would veto any kind of sanctions against Hungary. We are not the only country against which this procedure is going on, because the similar kind of procedure has been going on against Poland, but it's in a much more advanced phase. Let's put it this way, because it has been started, as far as I remember, last year already. And we made it very clear that we would veto any kind of sanctions against the Poles, because the critics on Poles are just being ridiculous. I mean, that's on the reform of Judiciary, and I'm not pretty sure that all those who put these allegations on the Polish have read the new laws and understood the reform procedure. I spent a lot of time with that because I really wanted to be sure what I say about their issue, and I really studied their judicial reform. They want to make they want to make procedures quicker. They definitely made decisions about the highest court, but I mean, they are a government. They are elected by the people, so they have to govern the country to the satisfaction of the people. And I don't see that they would have committed anything against the contracts of the European Union.
We have European elections next year. Do you feel that perhaps the European Parliament's action could backfire, given there are lots of populist and nationalist parties around Europe that potentially might support you?
I think that the European Parliament elections will have a big stake. I mean, I would say the biggest ever. And it's going to take place next May. A totally new setup of Commission, and I'm pretty sure that a new setup of European Parliament will be established.
Do you see some split in the European Union, or will parties like yours and governments like yours try to change Europe from within?
What I can tell you is that we take part in the debate about the future of the European Union. There are two concepts, at least, in the rivalry, in a federalistic, sovereignistic. We see how it will end. We definitely take part heavily in the debate. We will represent our position. Central European countries have very similar kind of mindset in this regard, pretty much common sense. I think it's not without a good reason that the Central European region is now among the most successful regions of the European Union. If you look at the growth figures, for example, our average growth is twice as high as the European average overall. So we try to be a growth engine to the European Union, and we'll see where all these debates evolve. But I think, having a debate about the future of EU is a very democratic thing.
There are some that say if Hungary was not a member of the EU and it was applying now, given the things that were in that parliamentary report, you wouldn't be accepted. What do you say to that?
They are members of the European Union.
I know, but you wouldn't be accepted now. You don't meet the criteria.
Yeah, we do. Be sure we do. We do.
Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.